This past Saturday, Clemson took on their in-state rival, the South Carolina Gamecocks, in Columbia, South Carolina, and came out with a win. 28-14 was the final score. It was a game where the Clemson Tigers kind of set the tone early. It felt like they were in control of the game for much of the game, even though it was close for a good portion of the contest. The defense showed out. They allowed, a lot of yards, but when the time came and they got off the field on third down, they forced a lot of turnovers. They were very opportunistic on the defensive side of the ball, forcing 4 turnovers, and the offense did just enough to get the job done. Your thoughts on the Clemson South Carolina game this past weekend, as you've had a couple days to digest the win?
Yeah, I mean, as I said on the post game show, it was one of the more complete performances. I
Yeah.
think just more one of the more complimentary wins that this team played, uh, and it was really nice to see. Obviously, it all kind of come together. Again, obviously, they left some points out there on the field. There were certainly some mistakes and things that could have gone a little bit differently, and you might have won by more points. But I mean, all in all, I felt like that was a game you controlled from start to finish, and just this team has not been able to do that against teams with a pulse for most of the year. So this was it was great that it came against the team in Columbia, but just in general, it was a really nice win, really complete performance. Um, going back and watching and also kind of diving into some of the stats and the grades. Um, Defensively, obviously one of your better performances. I mean, really outside of 2 plays, this defense was pretty good. They were great at getting off the field. South Carolina was a combined 2 for 14 on third and fourth down. I mean, that's going to win you a lot of football games. And the offense did just enough. And like I said, there were some plays missed out there, but it was a really good complimentary performance. You got great play from special teams. Jack Smith did a really nice job punting and winning the field position. Clemson did a great job at possessing the football, sustaining drives. And when you're facing an offense like South Carolina's that had been struggling at sustaining drives and really heavily reliant on the big play, if you can possess the ball for a really big chunk of the game, it limits their opportunities and it forces them to have to really it kind of shrinks the amount of opportunities they get to hit on those big plays. And so that was really, really pleasing to see. Ricardo Jones on defense ended up being your highest graded player. I think he had a 90.1 defensive grade according to Pro Football Focus. Wade Woodaz was your second most with 80.6, which really kind of highlights the how good the linebackers were. Sammy Brown was a 79.3. And obviously, T.J. Parker was great off the edge, having one of his best games of the probably his best game of the season in terms of sacks and production wise. So, man, just a great win offensively. You ran the ball well enough to keep them honest. Adam Randall had a really nice day. He was your highest graded player on offense. Cade Klubnik, obviously he missed some throws, but he made some plays too. He hit on some really big plays. A couple of them were taken back by illegal formation penalties, so maybe his statistics look a little bit better. Great heads up play by him on the fumble that was knocked out. It was just that was a crazy play. But to kind of gather it and then beat the edge, the defensive end to the edge and score that touchdown. I mean, that was a big swing in that game. So. Just all in all, great play from the receivers. The offensive line did what they had to do for most of the game. And, I didn't have too many complaints in terms of how you got this done, considering how the season has gone.
Yeah, I mean, this season has been an extreme disappointment for the Clemson Tigers. Let's not sugarcoat it or make any mistakes about it. It has been a very disappointing season for the Tigers, but both teams came in somewhat of disappointing season. South Carolina came into the season with much higher hopes than obviously they finished with. They're not bowl eligible, obviously, only winning 4 games. Clemson coming in being a ACC championship contender and a college football playoff contender and seeing what they were going to do in the college football playoffs, and none of that came to fruition. There was a point in time in the season where a lot of us college football fans and Clemson fans in particular were wondering if Clemson would even be bowl eligible at this point in time in the season, and they are. They rallied back. They go 7-5 in the regular season. They got a bowl game coming up. It remains to be seen where they will end up in the pecking order of the bowl games. But they will be in a bowl game this year, and Saturday was really a breath of fresh air for the Clemson Tigers. It was a game that, the offense and the defense both played really well for majority of the game. And as close as the game was for a big portion of the game, it felt like Clemson was in control the entire game. Like watching that game, you look at the box score and you're like, oh, South Carolina was competitive in the game. That really wasn't the case for majority of the game. It felt like Clemson was in complete control of that game. There was no point in time when I was watching the game, when we were on our game stream, that I ever thought that Clemson wasn't in control of the game. They just felt like they were more physically dominating on the lines of scrimmage than South Carolina was. Shout out to a lot of the players. I mean, Wade Woodaz probably had his best game of the season. You mentioned TJ Parker. He probably had his best game of the season. Jones in the back end probably had his best game of the season. There were several guys that stepped up. Ashton Hampton stepped up in a big way with the absence of Avion Terrell. He went out in the first half, never came back in the game, and he did his best against one of the best wide receivers in the country for South Carolina, and did his best in covering him. And he really only had one big play in the game. Really, two big plays along the defensive side of the ball was the story for South Carolina. Outside of that, the defense did really well. Yes, did they give up quite a few yards, but South Carolina finishing the game, I think 1 of 11 on third down, was really the story of the game. They got off the field when they needed to. South Carolina went on a couple different drives within the game, but ultimately Clemson's defense stood up when it needed to, and it was really probably the most complete game from a Clemson team that we've seen all season, and it couldn't come at a better time. It was, heading into that game, disappointing season. You really had nothing to play for as far as postseason wise. You had already made a bowl game. South Carolina really didn't have anything to play for. They could not achieve bowl eligibility, whether they won the game or they lost the game. So it kind of lost a lot of its luster heading into it. But when you watch the game on the field, you could not tell that those were two teams that were, one was, both were disappointing seasons. They fought extremely hard. The environment was really an insane environment for South Carolina. The fans showed up. They were loud. And Clemson just dominated on both sides of the ball, particularly on the line of scrimmage. And I think that was probably the most promising thing that you can take away from this game as you head into bowl season, the 15 practices that you'll get for that, and then turning the roster over, right? You got the transfer portal. You got guys that are going to be leaving for the NFL. You got coaching changes that are going to happen. And it's just nice to have that little bit of momentum heading into the offseason. It feels much different winning this game against your arch rival South Carolina than it would have being 6-6, dropping a game against South Carolina in the last regular season game of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a great way to close everything out. And kind of restore some order after last season. That was a tough one to lose at the end of the year, in a year where you made the college football playoff. And just kind of left a bad taste in your mouth, because that was another game that you felt like you were in control of for most of the game, and you just sort of gave it away with some with some defensive lapses and an inability to finish drives in the second half. So, it was great, just to kind of get back. Always, it's always nice winning over them. 6 straight in Columbia it's a great achievement. That is, I mean, it's a rowdy environment, as you mentioned, and obviously just with how the season has gone, a book ending it with a loss to the Gamecocks. Honestly, it feels even it would if you had lost, it would feel even worse because knowing that you still have to play another game after that and you kind of move on, and your season isn't like mercifully over. So winning that game gives you more positive, warm and fuzzies going into December and bowl season. So just great team win. Happy for the guys. Happy for the team. And what was otherwise a really, really disappointing and really catastrophic year in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out TJ Parker, Sammy Brown, Wade Woodaz. All three had really great games. TJ Moore had a great game in and of itself. And big win for K Klubnik. We talked a lot about legacy heading into the South Carolina game, and I think K Klubnik did a lot for his Clemson legacy. Going 2-1 against South Carolina is a monumental feat when it comes to thinking about he has not thrown a touchdown pass against South Carolina. His entire career has never thrown a touchdown pass against South Carolina, had several rushing touchdowns, have had several big throws, but never thrown a touchdown pass against South Carolina, but still goes 2-1. And I think that goes a long way when it comes to K Klubnik's legacy, when it comes to Clemson, and how he'll be remembered as a Clemson Tiger quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. It was important just for kind of how he's going to be remembered. I think K Klubnik, when you look back on his career, I mean, regardless, it's going to be one, you're going to get different opinions from different fans. Because, statistically, he's going to leave as one of the better quarterbacks to play here. And I mean, I do think he is one of the better quarterbacks to play here. But, just given the context in which he was here and, in the aftermath of one of the best run in school history, it wasn't up to the standard. And I think that's the thing that, many people aren't going to be able to shake. But I think with more time, I think, as we get farther removed, I think people will remember his career a little bit more fondly. There were plenty of ups. A lot of people will remember the downs, but there were plenty of ups and really exciting moments. And, he gave us a lot of memories. So I appreciate what K Klubnik was for Clemson and what he meant to the program and how much he cared about the program. That's one thing I'll never question about him is his love for Clemson. He really he's a Clemson guy. Like that's never had to question whether he cared. I mean, listen, you've got South Carolina fans, ripping into their quarterback, Lenore Sellers, for on social media because of how he acted after the interception at the end of the game. Man, when Cade lost the game last year on an interception, he told the media he went into his car and cried. I mean, you just listen. That guy's from Austin, Texas. Had no previous connection to Clemson before he was recruited. And so, you could tell the passion, the love he has for the university. And I don't take that for granted. So as much as we've criticized him over the years and frustrated at times, he's a Clemson Tiger at the end of the day. And I'm appreciative that he put on the paw and I think I never questioned that he gave 100% when he was out there on the field. So that's how I'll choose to remember K Klubnik in his career. And he's still got we're kind of giving a a wrap up of his career. He's still got one more game to play because he did say he will play in the bowl games. So hope he gets to end his career off with a win. We'll see what the destination is.
Yeah, absolutely. And to speak of a legacy game, Adam Randall,
Oh yeah.
24 for 102 and a touchdown, 4.3 yard average on the day. I mean, that guy, Adam Randall, from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, a Clemson guy through and through, has had his struggles since he's been at Clemson with multiple knee injuries and surgeries and all sorts of stuff, not being able to stay on the field. And then he comes into this offseason and does a complete position change to running back and stabilized that running back room in a monumental way. And for all of the Clemson fans out there that thought it was a good idea that Adam Randall moved to running back, one of which was me. I thought it was a great move for Adam Randall to move to running back. I thought it would work out. But even me, I never thought it would work out as well as it did. Adam Randall has been a staple of this Clemson offense. He's been a absolute terror on the ground. The transformation that he has made in one single offseason to become a very good college running back is amazing. And it shows his true love for the Tigers, much like Cade Klubnik. That guy's a Clemson guy through and through. I'm excited that he made the change. I think it definitely changed the trajectory of what Clemson was offensively this year. And I really hope he gets an opportunity at the next level because he's a Clemson guy through and through. And I wish him the best going forward. I wish he had another year, but he does not. Jordan, rivalry weekend is in the books. It happened this past Saturday, and it's one of those weekends that if you are a true college football fan and you are a fan of, the tradition of college football and the things that, make college football special, it's one of those weekends where the college football playoff goes aside, records go aside, coaching searches go aside, transfer portal goes aside, and it's just about what truly makes college football special. And this past weekend, when I watched all of the rivalry games, Clemson, South Carolina to be included, but all of the ones. It was certainly a weekend to be enamored in college football. It was a weekend that you can be proud of, and it kind of took you back to the what makes college football great, and what kind of sets college football apart from the NFL, sets college football apart from each and every sport. Just talk about your thoughts on rivalry weekend and what it means to college football. And then also, is it going to be altered in any way because of the invent of the college football playoff and the expansion of it? Are we going to see rivalry weekend be diminished in any way? Because this weekend, you could not tell. Talking about, Florida State, Florida, Clemson, South Carolina, those games meant nothing when it came to the college football playoff. Yet, it was one of those weekends where you could tell the fan base, the players on the field cared about those games regardless of the college football playoff. And I thought that was a stark reminder for all of the college football fans out there to mean that, yes, the college football playoff matters and it's special, but it does not mean everything. This is a sport that was built on the regular season. It was built on rivalries. It was built on tradition. And it's one of those things where I was reminded this week of how special and how different college football is.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's one of my favorite weekends of the year for a reason. And I mean, it's watching on even on Friday, um, with the Egg Bowl and then Georgia Tech later that night. I mean, you saw like the intensity, I mean, guys playing hard. I mean, obviously the Egg Bowl was kind of interesting given the stuff surrounding Lane Kiffin, and we'll talk about him later in the show. But Georgia Tech, that was a dogfight, man. I mean, like that was a fun, I mean, defensive slugfest. Georgia Tech, of course, is kind of trying to. You know, Obviously, their college football playoff hopes were kind of dashed, by kind of removing themselves from the ACC title picture, but they had a chance to really put a dent in Georgia's resume and all of that. But even without that lens, there you saw two teams that clearly had a lot of disdain for each other, and I mean those are the things we love about rivalry weekend. I mean on Saturday, you mentioned obviously Clemson, South Carolina had no shortage of chippiness. Um, Florida State was um, Florida absolutely. They had a fired coach, and yet they got up for this game. Well, they had an interim coach, and they were fired up for that game, and they really took it to the Knolls, especially in that late in that fourth quarter. So I think it says a lot. And then hell, Texas A&M and Texas. I mean, two teams we hadn't seen play in God knows how long um, because of a previous conference expansion and then being in two different conferences. But now they're back. They're back together, and Texas A&M had a chance to play for an SEC championship, and Texas got to play spoiler and also boost their playoff chances. So I mean that in some ways the playoff has heightened some of those matchups, especially the ones where there is playoff implications. Because I'm sure, like, man, I know if I was an A&M fan, I'd be sick to my stomach, knowing that we blew an opportunity to play for the SEC championship game another time because they haven't even played for it before since they've been in the SEC. And this was like their best team and their best shot to do it. All they needed was a win against a Texas team that had been kind of up and down throughout the season. But that's that's the beauty of rivalry week, man. And I do think that there are ways that the playoff has kind of diminished some of the importance and some of it, some of the fanfare that comes along with rivalry week. But at the end of the day, like these two, true rivalries. I mean, the institutions hate each other. It's still going to mean a lot when on the day of the game. You can talk about it doesn't really mean that much in the grand scheme of things, but when you're watching the football game and you're seeing the pads clashing, I mean, you can't really tell, usually. So, um, yeah, I mean, I was happy to. It was an enjoyable Saturday or enjoyable weekend overall. Obviously, Clemson winning helped a ton, but yeah, man, this is what makes college football great.
Yeah, it's what makes college football great, and I hope it's something that we never lose in college football. And some of the direction that the sport is going at this point in time, you're not sure if it's going to lose some of its luster, but I hope that it doesn't.